Today we're going to create a top-down game. This type of game is named so because of its bird's eye view. I'm going to create a maze game. Here I want to show I want Snow White to find her way through the maze. To start, I'll need to delete the cat. Then I want to add a background. I searched for a maze online and found this one. This one will work nicely because all the maze lines are the same color, and you'll see why that's important in a minute. Now that I have my background, I want to add Snow White. I just found her sprite online, and I'm going to add her in. Now when the game starts, I want her to start up here on the maze, in the maze. On the x-axis, -150, and on the y-axis, 146. Under the sprite, I'm going to need the script. When flag is clicked, go to -151 and y150, which is about where the start is. Let's see. Yep. Now I want to add her walking movements. Forever if down arrow pressed, I want to change Y by -2. -1 makes her walk too slowly, so we're going to make it -2. If we play, I press the down button and she moves down. Excellent. And we're going to want to add that script to the other arrow directions. So when clicked, forever if up arrow pressed, change Y by 2. And then when, I'm going to do this a little bit quickly here. I'm just going to duplicate that. Change X. Change X. Okay, so forever if right arrow pressed, I'm going to want that to be changed by 2. And if the left arrow is pressed, I want that to change by -2 on the x-axis. So let's give it a try. Down, sideways, and up. So each one works. But I don't want Snow White to be able to walk through the walls. This is where the color of the maze comes into play. I'm going to go into Sensing and grab Touching Color. And then when I pick the color, a little dropper shows up and I'll pick the color of the maze. And now I'll need an if. So if touching this color, I'm going to need to change the Y and X axis to be the opposite to make sure that she doesn't run into the walls. So if touching color, I got the change by X, and I'm going to put the opposite. So for the right arrow, I'm going to put -2. So that if if we press the right arrow and she walks into the wall, it'll keep her from touching the wall. And we'll do the same thing for all of the other ones. I'm just going to duplicate this, put it here, and just change it to a 2. And grab another if. I'm just going to duplicate this one. Duplicating things makes it a lot easier. Let's change Y, change Y. This one we're going to change by 2 because it's -2, and this one we're going to change by -2 because the original is changed by 2. Now she shouldn't be touching the walls when we play. So play moves her to the top, and she can't go into any of the walls. Oops, we run into this problem where she's a little too tall. So we just need to shrink her just a little bit more, so she fits in between the blue spaces. That should do it. There we go. Now, I want to make the game a little more complicated, so let's go ahead and add a health to it. So we're going to make a variable and call it health. I'm going to set health to 5 at the beginning of the game. So you start with 5 health. But to change the health, we're going to add some obstacles in for her. So we're going to add the apples from the last game. So we got a red apple, shrink them up, and a green apple. Let's duplicate these. So now we can put them around various places on the board. One there. So now we need to add the scripts. So they go in under Snow White Sprite. And when the flag is clicked, set health to 5. But forever, if under sensing we go touching, sprite 2, go under variable, and we change health by -1, because sprite 2 is a bad apple. Duplicate that one, put it in here, and change this one to sprite 8, which is the next bad apple. And duplicate it a few more times. So that's 9, 10, 11. So we change this one to 9, 10, and 11. stack them together and then put them in underneath here. Under the if. This if is in the wrong spot. It needs to go there. So those are for the bad apples. And then we can change the variables for the green apples. So same idea. Except we're going to make these change by 1. Duplicating is very helpful when you're working with a lot of the sprites that you want to have do the same thing. And now we're just going to change them to sprite 3, which is a good sprite, sprite 4, sprite 5, sprite 6, and sprite 7. So now if we play the game, she touches a red apple, she gets negative. But now it's doing that thing where every time you touch the sprite, it gives you a really big number. So what I want to do is add some weights in there. So I'm just going to add wait 1 second to each one of them. Just above change. And then I also want the sprite to disappear once Snow White touches it. So for each of the apples, I'll need to put in when flag clicked. Forever if, under sensing touching, sprite 1, which is Snow White, hide. Let's see if this works. So the apple disappears. So that worked for our sprite number 1, and we're just going to need to drag this over each of the sprites to copy the script into each one. So now it should work. So we're going to go down here. Just going to get the apple, I get the apple, get the apple. Because of that delay, the health is going to take a few seconds for it to register. I'm thinking maybe a 1 second wait might be a bit too long, maybe half a second. But you can play around with the times to get the right one. So now we've created a top-down game. You can add a beginning to and an end to it so that you have a story. And don't forget to go online, ask people on the Scratch forums if you need help with anything or if you need any more ideas, and talk to your peers. Work together and create something great.